The sky above Zephyr Prime burned with unnatural colors as another wave of enemy ships descended through the atmosphere. Kala pressed her delicate gossamer wings against the crystal wall of the emergency bunker, watching her beautiful city turn to ash and ruin. The towers that had taken centuries to grow from living crystal now cracked and fell like broken dreams. "How many more hours do we have?" asked Elder Thrin, his voice barely a whisper. His normally luminous skin had turned pale with fear, and his forearms trembled as he held the communication device. "The defense grid will fail within 6 hours," replied Commander Zeph, the only military leader left alive. "Maybe less. They are not just destroying our cities. They are hunting our people like animals." Through the transparent walls of the bunker, Kayla could see the hegemony soldiers moving through the streets. These creatures were nothing like the peaceful species of the galaxy. They wore black armor that seemed to drink in light, and their weapons turned everything they touched into burning vapor. Worst of all, they seemed to enjoy the destruction. The hegemony had arrived 3 days ago with a simple message: surrender or die. When the Zephyrian Council had tried to negotiate, the invaders had responded by destroying the capital city and everyone in it. Now they moved from settlement to settlement, killing without mercy. "We must send the message now," Elder Thrin said, his voice growing stronger with desperate hope. "The Galactic Peacekeeping Alliance will help us." They have to help us, Kayla wanted to believe this. The Alliance was legendary throughout the galaxy. They were wise beings who solved problems with careful thought and advanced technology. They had ended wars with words instead of weapons, and brought peace to countless worlds. Surely they would not let the Zephyrians die? "But will they arrive in time?" Commander Zeph asked. "Even if they receive our message today, it will take them weeks to organize a response. You know how they work. They will want to study the situation, form committees, and debate the best approach. Then we must make them understand that we do not have weeks," Thrin replied. "We barely have hours." The Elder moved to the great communication array that filled most of the bunker. It was their most powerful transmitter, capable of sending messages across the galaxy. Normally, they used it to share scientific discoveries or cultural exchanges with other peaceful worlds. Now it would carry their final plea for help. "I am encoding our entire situation," Thrin said as his 4 hands moved across the controls. "Language translation, tactical data about the enemy, our exact location, and the timeline. I am also including personal messages from our people, so the Alliance will understand what we are losing." Kayla watched as thousands of messages flooded into the transmission. Parents saying goodbye to children they had sent to safety on distant colonies. Artists describing the cultural treasures being destroyed. Scientists sharing their final discoveries, hoping someone would remember their work. She added her own message. "My name is Kayla. I am a teacher. I have spent my life showing young ones the beauty of our world and the wonder of the galaxy beyond. If you receive this message, please know that we died believing in the goodness of others. Please remember us as we were, not as we became in these final days of fear." "The transmission is ready," Thrin announced. "I am sending it to the Alliance homeworld of Serenity Prime. Their response time is usually excellent." Commander Zeph looked out at the burning city. What if they do not come? What if they decide we are not worth saving? "They will come," Kayla said firmly. "The Alliance has never abandoned a species in need. They may move slowly, but they always act when innocent lives are at stake." Elder Thrin activated the transmission array. The crystal walls of the bunker hummed with power as the message launched into space, carrying their desperate hope across the vast distances between stars. But something went wrong. A massive explosion shook the ground above them, and one of the hegemony ships had fired directly at their communication tower. The blast sent shockwaves through the underground cables, creating electrical storms in the transmission array. Sparks flew from the crystal matrices and warning lights flashed everywhere. "The coordinates are corrupted," Thrin shouted over the noise of failing systems. "The message is still transmitting, but I cannot tell where it is going." "Can you fix it?" Zeph asked. "No time. The system is overloading. If I try to change anything now, the message will be destroyed completely." Through the chaos of alarms and sparking equipment, they heard something that made their blood freeze. Hegemony soldiers were breaking through the upper levels of the bunker. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridors, along with the cruel laughter of creatures who enjoyed causing pain. "They have found us," Commander Zeph said quietly. He picked up the only weapon left in the bunker, a small energy pistol that would barely slow down a hegemony warrior. Elder Thrin kept working at the controls, his hands moving desperately to keep the transmission going. Almost finished. The message is 90% transmitted. Just a few more minutes. We do not have a few more minutes, Kayla said, watching the bunker's main door begin to glow red from enemy weapons trying to cut through. The door exploded inward, and 3 hegemony soldiers stepped through the smoking remains. They were even more terrifying up close than from a distance. Their armor made them look like living shadows, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Behind their dark helmets, red eyes glowed with cruel intelligence. "More insects to exterminate," one of them said in a voice like grinding metal. "This is almost too easy." Commander Zeph raised his weapon, but before he could fire, one of the soldiers shot him down without even looking in his direction. Zeph fell to the crystal floor and did not move again. "Please." Kayla stepped forward, spreading her wings wide to shield Elder Thrin. "We are not fighters. We mean no harm to anyone. Why are you doing this?" The lead soldier tilted his head, studying her like a scientist examining an interesting insect. "Why? Because we can. Because you are weak, and the strong take what they want from the weak. It is the natural way." "There are other ways to live," Kayla said, tears streaming down her face. "The galaxy is big enough for everyone. We could have been friends." "Friends?" The soldier laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Insects do not make friends with boots." Behind her, Elder Thrin whispered, "Transmission complete. The message is away. Whatever happens to us, someone will know what happened here." The soldier raised his weapon toward Kayla, but paused when he noticed the communication array. "You sent a message to whom?" "The Galactic Alliance," Thrin said, his voice full of defiant hope. "They will come for you. They will make you pay for what you have done." All 3 soldiers began laughing. "The Alliance? Those peaceful fools? They will spend months debating whether to help you, and by then this entire system will be empty space. We have heard their speeches about diplomacy and understanding. They are not warriors. They are barely worth conquering." "Someone will come," Kayla said, though her voice shook with fear. "Someone will answer our call." "Perhaps," the leader said, raising his weapon again. "But you will not live to see it." The weapon fired, and the last light faded from the communication bunker. But high above, racing through the darkness between stars, their message continued its journey toward an unknown destination. Dr. Elena Vasquez rubbed her tired eyes and reached for another cup of coffee. It was 3 in the morning at the Arecibo 2 facility, and she was the only researcher still awake in the massive radio telescope complex. The night shift was usually quiet, with only routine scanning for natural cosmic phenomena and the occasional check for messages from human colonies and other star systems. The coffee was cold and bitter, but Elena barely noticed. She had been working at SETI for 15 years, ever since humanity had achieved faster-than-light communication. Most of her colleagues had moved on to other projects after making contact with human settlements on distant worlds, but Elena still believed they would eventually hear from other intelligent species. The computer chimed softly, indicating an incoming signal. Elena glanced at the screen, expecting to see another data packet from the mining colony on Kepler 442b. Instead, the display showed something that made her drop her coffee cup. The signal was coming from outside human space. Far outside. The computer estimated the source was at least 8,000 light-years away, in a region where no human ships had ever traveled. Even more interesting, the signal was clearly artificial, with complex mathematical patterns that could only come from intelligent beings. "This is it," Elena whispered to herself, her hands shaking as she began recording everything. "This is actually it." She ran the signal through the translation protocols, programs designed to decode messages from unknown alien species. The computers worked for 20 minutes, comparing the patterns to every known language and mathematical system. Finally, text began appearing on her screen. "Emergency transmission to the Galactic Peacekeeping Alliance. We are the Zephyrians of the Zephyr system. Our worlds are under attack by the Hegemony Empire. They are killing our people without mercy. We have perhaps hours before our entire species is destroyed. Please help us. Our coordinates are attached. Please hurry." Elena stared at the message for a full minute before her training kicked in. She activated the emergency protocols, sending alert messages to every major government and scientific institution on Earth. Within an hour, the most important people on the planet were reading the alien distress call. The message was much longer than the initial plea. It contained detailed information about the attacking force, tactical data about their weapons and ships, and hundreds of personal messages from individual Zephyrians. Elena found herself crying as she read stories from alien parents saying goodbye to their children, from artists describing the destruction of their cultural treasures, from scientists sharing their final discoveries. One message especially touched her. "My name is Kala. I am a teacher. I have spent my life showing young ones the beauty of our world and the wonder of the galaxy beyond. If you receive this message, please know that we died believing in the goodness of others. Please remember us as we were, not as we became in these final days of fear." By dawn, emergency meetings were taking place in every capital city on Earth. The United Nations called an unprecedented session, with every member nation participating via holographic conference. President Chen of the Terran Federation stood before the assembly, holding a printed copy of the alien message. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we have received a call for help from a species we have never met, on worlds we have never seen. They are dying while we debate what to do." The Brazilian representative spoke first. "With respect, Madam President, we know nothing about these aliens or their enemies. How do we know this is not some kind of trap? How do we know they are telling the truth?" Elena, who had been invited as the primary translator, stood up. "Because they are about to die," she said simply. "The message contains biological data, cultural information, and personal stories from thousands of individuals. No one creates that level of detailed fake history just to fool strangers. These people are real and they are dying." The Russian delegate raised his hand. "Even if we believe them, what can we do? Our fastest ships would take months to reach them. By then it would be too late to help." "Maybe," said Admiral Sarah Chen, the President's sister and commander of the Terran Defense Force. "But maybe not. We have been developing new hyperspace drives that could cut travel time in half. More importantly, we have something no one else in the galaxy seems to have." "Which is?" asked the Japanese representative. "The willingness to fight," Admiral Chen replied. According to this message, the aliens expected help from something called the Galactic Peacekeeping Alliance. But look at their description of these people. They solve problems through committees and discussions. They spend months debating solutions while people die. President Chen nodded. "My sister is right. These Zephyrians are clearly peaceful beings who have never learned to defend themselves. They trusted that someone else would protect them. Well, someone will." The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Humanity had emerged from a century of devastating wars on Earth, only to discover that they were alone in a peaceful galaxy. The idea that innocents were dying while diplomats talked struck every human delegate the same way. The vote was unanimous. Earth would respond to the alien distress call. The next week was chaos. Every space-capable nation on Earth contributed ships, weapons, and personnel to what became known as the Terra Intervention Fleet. Military vessels that had been designed for fighting other humans were hastily modified for interstellar travel. Cargo ships were converted into troop transports. Even civilian vessels volunteered to carry supplies and medical equipment. Admiral Chen established her headquarters on the battleship Retribution, a massive vessel built during the Resource Wars. As she watched hundreds of ships gathering in Earth's orbital shipyards, she wondered if they were making a terrible mistake. "Second thoughts?" asked General Martinez, her chief of staff, as he joined her at the observation window. "Many," Chen admitted. "We are about to travel thousands of light years to fight enemies we have never seen, to protect people we have never met. If this goes wrong, we could start an interstellar war that destroys both species. And if we do nothing," Chen looked at the message display where Kayla's words still glowed on the screen, "if we do nothing, we will never be able to look at ourselves in the mirror again." Dr. Vasquez had volunteered to join the fleet as chief translator and alien relations specialist. She found Admiral Chen in the ship's command center on the day before departure, staring at tactical displays showing the Zephyr system. "Any last-minute intelligence from the message?" Chen asked. "I have been studying the cultural data," Elena replied. "The Zephyrians are even more peaceful than we first thought. They have not had a war in over 3,000 years. Their weapons are designed for mining and construction, not fighting. They literally do not know how to defend themselves. And their attackers? The opposite. The hegemony empire seems to be a collection of aggressive species that conquer and destroy for entertainment. According to the Zephyrian files, they have wiped out dozens of civilizations just for sport." Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Doctor, do you think we can win? Elena considered the question carefully. I think the hegemony has never fought humans before. They are used to attacking peaceful species that surrender quickly. They have no idea what they are about to face. The next morning, 847 human warships activated their hyperspace drives and vanished from Earth's solar system. Each ship carried a simple message painted on its hull in dozens of languages. No one dies alone. As the fleet traveled through hyperspace toward the Zephyr system, news of the mission spread across Earth. For the first time in human history, every nation, every culture, and every religion was united behind a single cause. They were going to save people they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. In cities around the world, people gathered to pray, to hope, and to wait for news from the stars. Children drew pictures of the butterfly-like Zephyrians they had seen in the translated messages. Artists created memorials for Kala and the other aliens who had died hoping someone would answer their call. Earth held its breath and waited to learn if they had sent their protectors to victory or to death among the distant stars. War Master Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Render, watching his forces systematically destroy another Zephyrian settlement. The operation was proceeding exactly as planned. These insect-like creatures offered no real resistance, and their primitive weapons could barely scratch hegemony armor. "Status report," Kresh demanded, his voice a low growl that made his subordinates tremble. "The northern continent is 60% cleared," reported his second-in-command, Colonel Thax. "We have eliminated approximately 4 million targets so far. The southern continent should be finished by tomorrow." Kresh nodded with satisfaction. The Zephyrians had been even easier to conquer than expected. Their entire military consisted of a few hundred lightly armed patrol ships designed for rescue operations, not warfare. Most of their population centers had surrendered immediately when faced with hegemony firepower. "Any word from the Galactic Alliance?" Kresh asked mockingly. He had intercepted the Zephyrian distress transmission and found it amusing that these creatures still believed in the peacekeeping myths. "Nothing, sir. Our intelligence suggests the Alliance is still forming committees to study the situation. At their usual pace, they will begin negotiations sometime next year." "Excellent. By then, this system will be a hegemony mining operation, and these insects will be a footnote in galactic history." Kresh turned back to the main display, which showed the beautiful crystal cities of Zephyr Prime being reduced to rubble. His forces had perfected the art of conquest over centuries of practice. They moved efficiently from world to world, taking what they wanted and destroying everything else. The galaxy's peaceful species had grown soft and weak, trusting in diplomats and philosophers to protect them. "Sir," the sensor officer called out suddenly, "I am detecting massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system." Kresh smiled. "Ah, the Alliance finally arrives. How many ships? A dozen, 2 dozen? Their usual diplomatic convoy?" The sensor officer stared at his instruments in confusion. "Sir, I am reading 847 distinct hyperspace signatures." "That cannot be correct. 800? Thax stepped forward, his own sensors confirming the impossible numbers. "The Alliance has never sent more than 50 ships to any single operation. Are you certain these readings are accurate?" Before anyone could answer, space itself seemed to tear open at the system's edge. Ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, each one appearing with a flash of exotic energy. The hegemony bridge crew watched in stunned silence as an enormous fleet materialized where empty space had been moments before. "What are those?" whispered the communications officer, staring at the tactical display. Kresh studied the alien ships with growing unease. They looked nothing like the elegant curved vessels typical of Alliance design. These ships were angular and brutal, covered in armor plating and bristling with weapon systems. They moved like predators with a deadly grace that spoke of creatures bred for war. "I have never seen ships like these," Colonel Thax admitted. "They do not match any known Alliance configuration." The lead alien vessel, a massive battleship that dwarfed even the Void Render, opened a communication channel. A voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent that sent chills down Kresh's spine. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You have attacked and murdered civilians of the Zephyrian species. You have 60 seconds to withdraw all forces from this system immediately, or we will consider you hostile combatants and respond accordingly." Kresh had conquered 47 star systems and destroyed dozens of species. He had never retreated from any enemy, and he was not about to start now. These unknown aliens might have numbers, but the hegemony had superior technology and centuries of combat experience. Unknown vessels, Kresh broadcast back. You are interfering with a legitimate hegemony operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. 50 seconds, came the cold reply. Sir, the tactical officer reported, their weapon systems are powering up. I am detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Irrelevant, Kresh snarled. All ships battle formation. Show these newcomers why the hegemony rules this galaxy. The hegemony fleet, 300 strong, moved into attack position. They had destroyed entire civilizations with half this number. No matter how many ships these aliens had brought, they could not match hegemony firepower and training. 30 seconds, the human admiral announced. Lock weapons on their flagship, Kresh ordered. When I give the command, concentrate all fire on their leader. Once we destroy their command ship, the rest will scatter like frightened animals. 10 seconds, came the human voice, now carrying an edge of something that made even Kresh pause. It was not fear or uncertainty. It was anticipation. Time's up, Admiral Chen said, and her next words changed everything. All ships weapons free. Show them what happens when you hurt innocents. The human fleet opened fire with a coordinated barrage that lit up space like a newborn star. But these were not the precise energy beams or plasma bursts typical of galactic warfare. The humans used kinetic weapons, massive projectiles fired at incredible speeds, along with primitive but effective missile swarms and nuclear devices. The first salvo tore through the hegemony formation like a hurricane through paper houses. Ship after ship exploded or simply vanished, overwhelmed by the sheer brutality of human weapons. In less than 10 minutes, half the hegemony fleet was dead or crippled. Impossible. Thax shouted over the alarms blaring throughout the bridge. No species fights like this. They are using nuclear weapons in space combat. They are ramming our ships with their own vessels. Kresh watched in horror as a human destroyer, its weapons exhausted, accelerated directly into a hegemony cruiser. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire, but 3 more human vessels immediately moved to take its place. These creatures fought with a savagery that defied all galactic conventions. They are singing, the communications officer reported in a stunned voice. The human crews are singing battle songs while they fight. Through the static of battle, Kresh could indeed hear voices raised in harmony, broadcasting on open channels. The humans were not just fighting. They were celebrating the fight. They flew their ships like extensions of their own bodies, performing maneuvers that should have killed their crews but instead brought them victory after victory. All ships retreat, Kresh finally ordered, his pride broken by the reality of defeat. Emergency hyperspace jump. Get us out of here. We cannot withdraw, sir, the navigation officer reported. They have deployed some kind of hyperspace inhibitor field. We are trapped in the system. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos again, broadcast to every surviving hegemony ship. You wanted to see what real warriors look like. Now you know. Surrender and you will be treated according to the rules of war. Continue fighting and we will show you why Earth is classified as a death world. Some hegemony captains tried to surrender immediately, but Kresh was not finished. He had one weapon left that no peaceful species would ever use. A planet killer designed to crack worlds open from core to surface. Target Zephyr Prime, he snarled. If we cannot have this system, then no one can. The weapon charged slowly, its massive energies building toward a single devastating shot. But before it could fire, something impossible happened. A human ship, a small frigate barely 1/10 the size of the Void Render, flew directly into the path of the planet killer beam. The human captain's final transmission reached every ship in the system. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Guadalcanal. Tell my family I died protecting innocents. All ships avenge us. The frigate vanished in a flash of energy, but its sacrifice had given the other human vessels time to close the distance. Dozens of ships converged on the Void Render from all directions, their weapons firing continuously. The flagship's shields collapsed, its armor buckled, and its hull began to crack under the relentless assault. Kresh's last coherent thought, as his bridge exploded around him, was that he had underestimated these creatures completely. They were not just warriors. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were willing to die for strangers, to sacrifice everything for beings they had never met. The Battle of Zephyr Prime lasted 4 hours. When it ended, The hegemony fleet was completely destroyed, with only a handful of ships escaping to hyperspace. The human fleet had lost 37 vessels and over 2,000 crew members, but they had achieved total victory. As the last enemy ship fled into the darkness, Admiral Chen surveyed the battlefield. The space around Zephyr Prime was filled with debris from both fleets, but beyond the wreckage, the beautiful blue-green world still turned peacefully in the light of its sun. "All ships," she broadcast to her fleet, "begin search and rescue operations immediately. There are Zephyrian survivors down there, and we came here to save them. Let's finish the job." The deadliest military force in galactic history turned its attention to the most difficult task of all: healing the wounds of war and proving that strength could be used to protect instead of destroy. Lieutenant Maria Santos had seen plenty of destruction during the resource wars on Earth, but nothing had prepared her for the devastation on Zephyr Prime. As her drop pod descended through the planet's atmosphere, she could see entire crystal cities reduced to glowing slag, and forests of the strange tree-like structures the Zephyrians cultivated turned to ash and ruin. "Remember, people," her sergeant's voice crackled over the comm. "We are here to help, not to conquer. These beings are peaceful civilians who have been through hell. Treat them like you would want your own family treated." Maria's pod touched down in what had once been a residential district. The crystalline homes lay in fragments, their beautiful geometric patterns shattered beyond repair. But as she and her squad began searching through the rubble, they heard something that made their hearts race: the sound of someone calling for help. "Over here," called Corporal Johnson, who was lifting chunks of crystal debris with his powered armor. "I think there's someone trapped underneath." The entire squad converged on the location, working carefully to avoid causing further collapse. After 20 minutes of delicate excavation, they uncovered a small chamber where 3 Zephyrians had taken shelter when their building fell. Maria got her first close look at the alien beings. They were even more delicate than the images from their transmission had suggested. Their gossamer wings were nearly transparent, and their skin had a luminous quality that seemed to glow from within. The largest of the 3, clearly an adult, had wrapped her forearms protectively around 2 smaller beings. Children, Maria realized. The adult Zephyrian stared at the human soldiers in terror, pressing herself and the youngsters back against the wall of their tiny refuge. She spoke rapidly in her own language, but Maria's translator quickly converted the words. "Please do not hurt us," the alien was saying. "We have nothing left to take. The children are all that remain of their families. Please, if you must kill us, make it quick." Maria felt her heart break. She slowly removed her helmet, showing her human face, and knelt down to the alien's eye level. "We are not here to hurt you," she said gently. "We are here to help. We received your message and we came to save you." The Zephyrian woman stared at Maria in confusion. "You came to save us? But you are not from the Alliance. What species are you?" "We are humans," Maria replied. "We are from a planet called Earth. Your message reached us by mistake, but we came anyway." "By mistake?" The alien's expression changed from fear to wonder. "The Alliance did not send you?" "No," Maria admitted. "We do not even know who the Alliance is, but we know that innocent people were dying, and that was enough." Over the following hours, similar scenes played out across the planet. Human soldiers pulled survivors from collapsed buildings, tended to their wounds, and shared their food and water with beings they had never seen before. The cultural barriers seemed impossible at first. Humans were so different from Zephyrians that they might as well have been from different universes. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked around the clock in the improvised field hospital, trying to understand Zephyrian biology well enough to treat their injuries. The aliens had a completely different internal structure from humans, with multiple hearts and a circulatory system based on luminous fluid rather than blood. "Their physiology is incredible," she explained to Admiral Chen during one of her brief rest periods. "They are perfectly adapted for their world, but incredibly fragile by our standards. A fall that would barely bruise a human child could kill an adult Zephyrian." "How are they responding to our help?" Chen asked. With amazement, Elena replied. "They keep asking why we came. They cannot understand why strangers would risk their lives for people they had never met. It is completely outside their experience." Meanwhile, human engineers worked to restore basic services to the surviving cities. Captain Tommy Wilson, formerly of the Titan Mining Corps, led a team that was trying to repair a water treatment facility. The work was complicated by the fact that Zephyrian technology was based on biological processes that humans barely understood. "Excuse me," a soft voice said behind him. Wilson turned to find a Zephyrian scientist, her wings drooping with exhaustion but her luminous eyes bright with curiosity. "I am researcher Vala. This was my laboratory before the attack. May I help you understand how our systems work?" Wilson was amazed by the alien technology. Instead of mechanical pumps and filters, the Zephyrians used specially bred organisms that processed water naturally. Their entire infrastructure was alive, growing and adapting to changing conditions. "This is incredible," Wilson told his team. "They don't just live on their world, they work with it. Everything is integrated into the natural ecosystem." Working together, humans and Zephyrians managed to restore water service to most of the surviving population within 3 days. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Vasquez was finally able to establish meaningful communication with the Zephyrian Council of Elders. The meeting took place in one of the few undamaged buildings on the planet, a graceful tower that seemed to grow naturally from the bedrock. Admiral Chen attended along with her senior staff. While the Zephyrian delegation consisted of 5 elders who had survived the massacre. "We owe you a debt that can never be repaid," Elder Shen began, his translated words carrying deep emotion. "You have saved our species from extinction. But we must ask, who are you really? Your ships, your weapons, your soldiers. Nothing about you matches what we know of galactic civilization." Elena looked at Admiral Chen, who nodded for her to explain. "We are from what you would call a death world," she began. "Our planet Earth is considered extremely dangerous by galactic standards. Most of our history has been spent fighting wars, against our environment, against other species on our world, and against each other." The Zephyrian elders listened in fascination as Elena described Earth's violent evolution, the predators and natural disasters that had shaped humanity, and the constant struggle for survival that had made humans into warriors. "But this is incredible," Elder Vala interrupted. "Your world has multiple intelligent species? How do you coexist without constant warfare?" "We learned," Admiral Chen replied simply. "After nearly destroying ourselves and our world, we realized that our strength was better used protecting others than fighting each other. We became united not through conquest, but through the decision to defend those who cannot defend themselves." Elder Thrin, the oldest of the survivors, asked the question that had been troubling all of them. "Why did our message reach you instead of the Alliance? Was it truly an accident?" Elena hesitated, then decided on complete honesty. "Your transmission equipment was damaged during the attack. The coordinates were corrupted and the message was redirected to our solar system instead of the Alliance homeworld." "So the Alliance never received our call for help?" "We do not know," Chen admitted. "But even if they had, would they have arrived in time? From what you have told us about their methods, they would have spent weeks forming committees and planning diplomatic solutions while your people died." The Zephyrian elders exchanged glances, their luminous faces showing emotions humans were only beginning to understand. Finally, Elder Shen spoke again. "Admiral Chen, we have a confession to make. We have been in contact with the Galactic Alliance for over 2 centuries. We know their methods very well. They are wonderful beings, wise, peaceful, dedicated to justice and understanding. But you are right. They would have studied our situation for months before acting. Then perhaps your message being redirected was not such an accident after all," Chen suggested. Over the following days, as human and Zephyrian teams worked together to rebuild their civilization, both species learned things that would change their understanding of the galaxy forever. The Zephyrians discovered that peace could be protected by strength, while humans learned that their warrior nature could serve a purpose beyond mere survival. Dr. Vasquez found herself working closely with Zephyrian scientists who were amazed by human adaptability. "Your people can survive in environments that would kill us instantly," Research Vala marveled. "Yet you use this strength to heal rather than harm. How is this possible?" "Maybe because we know what it feels like to suffer," Elena replied. "When you have been hurt, really hurt, you never want anyone else to experience that pain." As rescue operations continued across the system, it became clear that the relationship between humans and Zephyrians was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. 2 completely different species, shaped by opposite evolutionary paths, were discovering that they complemented each other perfectly. The Zephyrians offered knowledge, beauty and wisdom accumulated over millennia of peaceful development. The humans offered protection, determination, and the hard-won understanding that sometimes violence was necessary to preserve peace. Standing in the rebuilt communication center, Admiral Chen watched human and Zephyrian technicians working side by side to repair the great transmitter. Soon, they would be able to contact the rest of galactic civilization and tell them what had happened here. She wondered how the galaxy would react when they learned that the most feared world in known space had produced not conquerors but protectors. The message that had been sent to the wrong species had found exactly the right recipients after all. 6 months after the Battle of Zephyr Prime, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council on the crystal world of Serenity Prime. The magnificent chamber was filled with representatives from 300 species, all of them staring at the human delegation with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and wonder. Chen had never seen so many different forms of intelligent life in one place. There were graceful beings that looked like living light, others that resembled walking trees, and creatures so alien that her mind struggled to process their appearance. But despite their differences, they all shared one thing in common. They were clearly peaceful beings who had never known real warfare. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as someone seeking understanding between our peoples. The council chairman, a tall being with crystalline features similar to the Zephyrians but older and more complex, spoke with the authority of centuries of experience. Admiral Chen, your species has disrupted the peace of this galaxy in ways we are still trying to comprehend. In one day you destroyed an entire hegemony fleet and changed the balance of power that has existed for millennia. With respect, Chairman, Chen replied, the balance you speak of was maintained by allowing peaceful species to be slaughtered while you debated proper responses. We disrupted nothing except the murder of innocents. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. The Altarian representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke up. But Admiral, you used nuclear weapons in space combat. You rammed your own ships into enemy vessels. Your tactics were barbaric by civilized standards. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat, stepped forward. Honored delegates, I have spent the last 6 months living among the Zephyrians, learning their culture and sharing ours with them. They have taught me something important about civilization. The chamber fell silent as Elena continued. True civilization is not the absence of violence. It is the wisdom to know when violence is necessary to protect innocent life. You have built a beautiful society based on peace and understanding, but you forgot that peace must sometimes be defended. Elder Thrin of the Zephyrian delegation rose from his seat. His presence caused another stir, as the Zephyrians had been considered extinct by most of the galaxy. Chairman, if I may speak. My people believed as you do. We trusted that words would protect us, that civilized beings would never harm peaceful civilians. We were wrong and we nearly died because of that mistake. But surely, the Serenitian delegate interjected, there must have been a diplomatic solution to the hegemony crisis. Some way to resolve the conflict without such massive loss of life. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. Tell me, honored delegate, what diplomatic solution would have saved the 4 million Zephyrians who were already dead when we arrived? What words would have brought back the children who died calling for their parents? The uncomfortable silence that followed was broken by an unexpected voice. A small mouse-like being from the Squeaker Collective spoke up. I have a question for the humans. We have heard rumors that you have received other distress calls since the Zephyrian incident. Is this true? Elena and Chen exchanged glances. This was the moment they had been preparing for. Yes, Elena admitted. We have received 43 requests for assistance from species across the galaxy. Pirates attacking merchant convoys, slavers raiding colony worlds, and warlords threatening peaceful settlements. And your response? The chairman asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. We responded to every call, Chen said firmly. Our ships now patrol 37 star systems, protecting trade routes and defending colonies. We have established what we call the Guardian Compact, a mutual defense agreement with any peaceful species that requests our protection. The reaction was immediate and intense. Delegates began talking among themselves in dozens of languages, creating a cacophony of sound that the translation systems struggled to handle. The chairman called for order several times before the chamber settled down. "Admiral Chen," the chairman said slowly, "you are describing a fundamental change to galactic civilization. For 10,000 years we have maintained peace through diplomacy, trade agreements, and cultural exchange. You propose to replace this with military force." "No," Chen replied. "We propose to supplement it with the willingness to fight when diplomacy fails. Your methods work wonderfully for reasonable beings who want peaceful solutions. They do not work against predators who enjoy causing suffering." A new voice entered the debate. The representative from Altair Prime, whose people had been fighting off raiders for decades while waiting for Alliance assistance, spoke with barely contained emotion. "The humans are right. My people have sent 17 requests for aid over the past 50 years. Each time we were told that committees were being formed, studies were being conducted, and diplomatic solutions were being explored. Meanwhile, my children died defending our homes with farming tools against military-grade weapons." More voices joined in. The delegate from New Harmony described how pirates had enslaved half their population, while the Alliance debated economic sanctions. The representative from the Coral Worlds explained how their entire ecosystem was being strip-mined by the hegemony while environmental impact studies were being prepared. Elena realized that they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, the victims of the Alliance's slow-moving bureaucracy were speaking up about the cost of endless patience. "I think," she said when the voices finally died down, "that the galaxy has room for both approaches. The Alliance's dedication to peace and understanding remains valuable and necessary, but there must also be guardians, beings willing to act quickly when innocent lives are at stake." The Zephyrian elder Shen rose to speak. "If I may, I would like to share what we have learned about humans in the months since they saved us. Yes, they are warriors. Yes, they use violence when they believe it is necessary, but they are also the most compassionate beings we have ever encountered." He gestured to a holographic display that showed images from the rebuilding of Zephyr Prime. Human soldiers were shown working alongside Zephyrian civilians, sharing meals, playing with alien children, and helping to restore damaged cities. "They did not come to conquer us," Shen continued. "They came to save us, and they have spent months helping us rebuild our civilization. They ask for nothing in return except the chance to prevent other tragedies like ours." Admiral Chen stepped forward again. "Honored delegates, Earth does not seek to rule the galaxy or replace the Alliance. We seek only to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We call this the Guardian Compact because that is what we are, guardians standing watch against the darkness." The debate continued for hours, but gradually, the tone began to shift. More and more delegates spoke about attacks on their worlds, raids on their shipping, and crimes that had gone unpunished while the Alliance studied appropriate responses. Finally, the chairman called for a formal vote. "The question before us is whether to recognize the Terran Guardian Compact as a legitimate organization within galactic law, and whether to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth." The vote was closer than Chen had hoped, but decisive enough to matter. 2/3 of the delegates voted in favor of recognition, with most of the dissenting votes coming from the core Alliance worlds that had never faced external threats. As the session ended, delegates began approaching the human delegation. Some came to offer formal requests for protection. Others came to express private gratitude for actions Earth had already taken. A few came simply to satisfy their curiosity about the species that had changed the galaxy in 6 months. Dr. Vasquez found herself talking with a group of younger delegates who seemed fascinated by human culture. "Is it true," asked a butterfly-like being from the Nectar worlds, "that your species has thousands of different languages and cultures, but you still cooperate with each other?" "We learned the hard way that diversity makes us stronger," Elena replied. "Our differences give us different perspectives on problems, different solutions to try. We are better together than apart." As the formal session broke up into smaller conversations, Admiral Chen stepped out onto an observation balcony overlooking the crystal gardens of Serenity Prime. The chairman joined her there, his ancient features thoughtful in the soft alien starlight. "You have changed everything, you know," he said quietly. 10,000 years of careful balance overturned in a single day. "Sometimes change is necessary," Chen replied. "Sometimes the old ways, no matter how beautiful, are not enough to face new challenges." The chairman was quiet for a long moment. "My people achieved interstellar travel 3 million years ago. We have seen civilizations rise and fall, watched species evolve and go extinct. In all that time, we have never encountered beings quite like humans. What makes us different? You are predators who protect prey, the chairman said. Killers who preserve life. Warriors who serve peace. It should be impossible, yet here you are. Chen looked out at the peaceful alien city, its towers glowing softly in the night.